You are listening to the MJ Sportscast, recapping the latest games, getting you up to date on the latest sports news, and providing our exciting Bay Area picks. This is the MJ Sportscast with your hosts, Mike Tang and Jerry Yang.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the MJ Sportscast here. Myself, Mike Tang, I'm joined every week by Jerry Yang here. Jerry, how's it going today?
Going good, man. So I think we're going to try a new format this week where we're trying to keep the episodes a lot shorter and more to the point. So excited to get into it.
Let's kind of start with the NBA here, right? Because we're just fresh off a Warriors finals win, a couple of weeks off the parade here. But now the NBA news has kind of been it's kind of like a revolving door all throughout the season. And that's the way the commissioner wants it, right? Where we're constantly thinking about the NBA, even during the off season. But now we kind of have free agency here. And then we also have summer league going on. What do you think about James Wiseman and some of the rookies that have played with the Warriors Summer League?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you that the league wants a lot of changes, and they're getting it. I know Boston's making a huge push with a bunch of trades to try to load up their side. From the Warriors' standpoint, we lost some key guys. Gary Payton II, Otto Porter, and those two guys are pretty hard to replace, right? And Belicia, lost him. But the good news is we have guys that are coming up. Moses Moody's looking great in the summer league. Kaminga played a few games looking good. And I think there's a few stars that we're going to find. And I think the promising part is James Wiseman. James Wiseman was able to play 20 minutes in a game. And if he can be the guy that the Warriors need him to be, I think that'll be even better for us. I know Looney played all games last season, and I think that's going to burn him out if he keeps at that pace. So we're going to need James Wiseman to be that guy and have, Looney coming off the bench, and maybe even times have both of them on the court. I think it opens up a lot of possibilities for us. So what do you think about all this stuff?
Well, I think it was a very positive thing to see James Wiseman on the floor altogether here, especially after missing all of last season due to injury. He had a pretty decent stat line, I guess, offensively. The rebounds, he could sure get a lot more of those. But the most surprising stat that I found was the 7 fouls that came into play that first game here. And after looking it up and after talking about it with some friends, I didn't know what was the limit for the G League fouls. And apparently you can rack up 10 fouls per game here.
I kind of like it though. That means he's aggressive, right? Like, and he's trying to get into it. He's not shying away from being able to commit those fouls. Obviously, in the regular season, he has to clean it up because he only gets 6 fouls, and he don't want to be fouled out every single game. So in some
Yeah.
ways, I like the aggression. I like the change. To me, the biggest concern with James Wiseman is the fact that he is perceived somewhat soft because of his injuries, right? So, like, hearing him get in there and be aggressive and accumulating some fouls, I think it's not too bad.
Yeah, I didn't really watch that first game, so I didn't really see what kind of fouls he was committing
Yeah.
here. Hopefully, it was more like in the paint kind of fouls, aggressive fouls. But if it was fouls that were in the perimeter or kind of boneheaded mistakes that he was making, then that's a concern
Yeah.
here. But I think he's going to be fine, to be honest with you. I think Wiseman is going to be a key component for the Warriors this season here, just because, okay, well, we signed Kevon Looney, but do we expect Kevon Looney to play every single regular season game again like he did this past season? I don't want to. I don't want to take my chances on that. I really do think Wiseman is going to take that spot, or at least that backup spot here. But I wanted to talk about Jonathan Kuminga because he kind of showed a lot of good flashes during the regular season, but he also made quite a lot of mistakes as well, to the point where the coaching staff really couldn't trust him, in the playoffs here. Do you think Kuminga is going to bounce back to have a better to bounce back from that rookie season and have a better sophomore campaign?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he's been dominating the summer league, right? Whenever he played, and I think it's really hard to just jump into the playoffs your first year or two. So
Yeah.
in my opinion, I think he'll bounce back. There's a lot of hopefuls actually. I guess I can kind of break it down by pluses and minuses. Like the pros
Yeah.
of what we saw in the summer league is I think Witherspoon and Mac McClung are two guys that are heating up and hopefully gets contracts. I know there's a big push on Twitter for those two guys. Jesse and Jessup's actually looking really good as well. He's a guy that was drafted the same year as Wiseman, a little bit late. Don't think he'll probably make it to the big leagues, but at least he's looking pretty good in terms of shooting and being on the court. But yeah, McClung and Witherspoon are two gems possibility, right? And I think Kaminga, and seeing Kaminga in the summer league, he stands out, right? He looks like a guy who is and NBA ready and is just kind of keeping himself sharp in the summer league versus a guy who's trying to compete for a job there, right? Like the other guys. So to me, he's a step ahead of them. The negatives, I think, for the summer league is none of the rookies we drafted this year can play, right? Like Patrick Baldwin and Ryan Rollins all had injuries that prevented them from getting these valuable minutes. And to me, I don't think there are going to be any valuable contributors during the regular season if they can't play in the summer league, right? It's going to be like the Moses Moody and Kaminga season where they maybe get some minutes, but you're not going to be expecting much, right? And speaking of Moody, same way with Moody and Kaminga, right? I think both of them kind of stand out that they're a bit ahead of all the other guys that they're playing in the summer league. So to me, it's very promising for the last year rookies. I think the downside is a concern to me is this year's rookies. So.
Yeah, this year's rookie class is going to be very concerning just because Baldwin has proven that he can't really stay on the floor, and he struggled during his college time there. And it wasn't really a great program or a great division that he was playing in. And a lot of people say that he really struggled against subpar competition in college, right? And I think that's the main concerning thing here. But I think the Warriors are confident that their training staff can get Baldwin up to speed and have him at least contributing or playing in the NBA within the second half of next season here, with their eyes towards 2 years from now.
Yeah, he has a similar ankle injury that Curry had, right? So I think that's why they're a little bit optimistic that, if Curry's getting this type of treatment, Baldwin would as well and be effective. So.
All right. Well, that's great stuff about the NBA. Let's talk about the NFL here locally. Jimmy Garappolo back on the news again, right? Where he's being rumored to be traded allegedly to the Seattle Seahawks, a rival within our division here. Do you think Jimmy Garoppolo will be traded before the end of this month?
Well, his agent said so, right? His agent committed to him being traded by end of this month. And I think either he gets traded or he gets cut at the end of this month because the regular season's starting up. And the Niners are on the hook for $25 million if he doesn't get cut or traded. So I think either way, I feel like the time with the Niners and Jimmy G has passed now, And if you listen to Matt Mioko's podcast on KMBR, he actually broke it down really well because a lot of people are comparing the Baker Mayfield situation with Jimmy. The fundamental difference is Jimmy G is not owed any money, right? So I think it's in all parties' best interest for the Niners to cut him at this point, unless they can get a really good trade offer, right? Because if you think about it from the Niners' perspective, $25 million off the books cleanly, right? They won't be paying or owing any money. Jimmy G gets to pick his team, and whatever the new team signs him can negotiate a new contract. It doesn't have to be 25 million. So all three parties, I think, win in the situation. Um, Even though Jimmy G would be taking a pay cut most likely, but he's already, made tons of money with his contract with the Niners already. So to me, I think he'd probably rather pick his own team at this point. The Seahawks rumor is interesting. I don't think a trade will happen, but I wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks or the Browns end up signing Jimmy G if he gets cut by the Niners. So
Yeah, at this point, I don't think there are any teams lining up to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo here, just because one, he's coming off, surgery, and he still hasn't proven that he can throw a football yet. And two, like you mentioned in John Jay's podcast last week or a few weeks back, Jimmy Garoppolo is just an injury-prone player, and he's kind of been proven to be that kind of player or quarterback in this league. So I don't think any team is willing to risk any assets for a player like that here. So I think he's going to be cut because we just need that financial flexibility from that 20-ish million that he is owed for this year. And it's kind of tough because once Jimmy Garoppolo announced that he was going to move forward with that surgery, he kind of threw a wrench into the 49ers plans, right? Where the 49ers were planning to trade him and maybe get some assets for him, but he kind of blindly told the Niners, okay, well, we're just going to move forward with this and not really get your consultation about it.
Well, I don't know if that's true, right? Because listening to KMBR and a few podcasts, it sounds like it was a team's decision and Jimmy's decision to get that surgery. Mainly because if you trade Jimmy G with the shoulder injury, he's not going to pass those health clearances, right? So I think that's the reason why I think that as part of the NFLPA, you can't move a player because they're injured, right? And that rule also applies in a trade. So that's why I think it was in all parties' best interest as a last resort that they had to get that surgery, right? So and right now the Niners can't cut Jimmy G because he's injured because that's still a rule, right? They can't move him, but
Mm-hmm.
he's on track to throw soon, right? And once he's able to throw, I think that's when we'll see movement. Either they cut or trade him, and I'm leaning towards cutting him at this point, right? I don't think it's going to happen, but who
Yeah.
knows? I think the Browns are going to be desperate enough. Deshaun Watson's suspension is coming soon. All signs point to either a 6 or 1 year suspension, a 6 months or 1 season suspension. Most likely closer to the 6 game suspension. So we'll see how it goes, right? But yeah, I think if anything, if Watson gets suspended for the whole season, Jimmy G is probably going to be more valuable to the Browns at least, and I could foresee a trade potentially happening there if that was the case. But that's going to be best case scenario in my opinion. So
Awesome. Well, lastly, let's talk about Major League Baseball here with the San Francisco Giants. They've been kind of slumping, to be honest with you, this first half of the season here. And let's kind of talk about Carlos Rodon because he recently completed this great game in which he threw like a 1-run shutout complete game against the Padres in San Diego. But I wanted to also kind of talk about the way he was snubbed out of the All-Star game here. Do you think Carlos Rodon was really excluded from this game? And why do you think that happened?
well, he has actually got announced to be a reserve. So, so I think he will be in the All Star game, but not as a starter, and probably because of the Giants' losing streak, that he wasn't being called up. So in some ways, yes, he did get snubbed because I think he's having a really solid season. But the win totals aren't reflecting that, right? And I think he did criticize the Giants for not having energy, and then he threw a complete game right before they announced that All Star roster. So I think that ignited the team. Started with a winning streak. even yesterday's Arizona game, we probably should have won that game. There was a very close 50-50 call that resulted in a double play from Crawford. So worth watching if people missed that. But there was a streak. It was a rally that was coming back in the eighth inning for the Giants, and we would have basically won that game. So I think Rodon did ignite the team, momentum starting, but now the All Star break came up, right? So now I'm a little bit worried personally that because of the All Star break, that all this momentum that they built up kind of came on the wrong time. Like now we're gonna be um, offered this week, and when we come back, hopefully we keep the momentum going, but it's definitely a risk in my opinion. So I mean, do you feel like you got snubbed? I know alternate isn't the best, but at least is in the game somewhat, right?
Yeah, I felt like he absolutely got snubbed out of the All Star game here. You can arguably say he was a top 3 pitcher in all of baseball, to be honest with you, just because of his strikeout totals and his ERA. It's pretty solid here. So I don't know why he didn't make it to the All Star game, but I'm just glad he was, included as a replacement. Kind of talking about how momentum will be altered due to the All Star game. You have to also keep in mind that we still have this whole week left of baseball, right? Where teams are playing up till, I believe, this Sunday. So it's not like we're getting, we win 2 games against San Diego and then we have to stop playing this Wednesday, for example, here. We still have a whole full week left to play. I'm really disappointed that the Giants really can't build any sort of winning streak, right? Where they beat San Diego twice and then they lose against the Diamondbacks last night here. These are games that they have to win, right? And these are games that they won last season, but they're not winning this season here. And I think that's going to be a big impact on their win-loss record. I think when we talked preseason, Vegas thought that the Giants were going to win 83, 85 games, if you recall. And that kind of line doesn't look too bad now, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why they set those lines there, right? And I think injury has also plagued the team. So that contributes to the losing streak as well. So we actually got a few comments from Jeannie Liu. She said, or they will regroup and be fine after his all-star break, and their old men can rest up for the second half, and Kershaw shouldn't be in the all-star game. And I absolutely agree with that last one. I don't know why Kershaw's in there. I felt like part of the snub was because of Kershaw, right? I know he had an almost perfect game, but he didn't have the perfect game. So whatever. I think JD Martinez probably or Garrett Cooper, who are also alternates, I think were better than Kershaw in my opinion. I think because of Kershaw's name, potentially it's going to be his last season. Maybe they just gave it to him, but I don't think he's done anything to earn that. What do you think?
Well, my problem with Kershaw being in the All-Star game is not because it's going to be his last season, which he hasn't really announced that it will be, but because it's going to be at Dodger Stadium, because we haven't had an All-Star game there in 30 years or so.
Yeah,
it feels like they're just kind of giving him that slot where you have someone like Carlos Rodon, for example. He's earned that spot, and you kind of give it to a guy that doesn't earn it. It kind of screws up the validity of the All-Star game altogether.
That's true. I absolutely agree with that, actually, right? That the All-Star game becomes not as important, right? You kind of cheapen it a little bit by putting in a guy just because he's in LA, right? So, and I think Jeannie Liu agrees with you. It's honestly dumb that they need to have a representative from each team, and Kershaw is probably in it because the All-Star game's in LA. So, yeah, I think Jeannie agrees with you. I'm glad Jock Peterson made it at least, right? I think that was a big win. But yeah, I guess in my opinion, though, overall, does it really even matter to go to All-Star game anymore, right? Because no more home advantage. Maybe it matters from a contract perspective for these individual players, but as a fan or for the team, I mean, wouldn't you rather not have your guys in there so they can rest up for a week? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So either way, I'm glad Elise is a replacement. I think the answer to that, I think it does matter a little bit because you do want to see our guys get honored, right, and get noticed by the league and mainstream media. So
Yeah, I think the All Star game is actually pretty great for players to be a part of here. It kind of validates their value
mhm.
throughout that first half of the season. It kind of helps showcase, their talent to
Yep.
fans out there. So I love the All Star game. I've always loved it. 10 years ago from today, 2012, we had 4 or 5 All Stars where Miguel Cabrera was the All Star game MVP. You had
Mhm.
Matt Cain starting that game. You had Pablo Sandoval going for 2 to 3 hits there as well. Very well represented. And you can kind of see why the Giants won the World Series in 2012 because of all that talent there. So I think it's great for the talented teams, but it's not so great for guys who are forced to be on there just because there's that mandatory one player per team rule that Jeannie Liu mentioned.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, if you look at other sports, it was kind of cool to see all the Warriors guys dominate the All Star game as well, right? As starters, so it does have some feel to it. Last thing I want to talk about there is, hey, do you see the jerseys that came out? What are your thoughts on that? I mean, they went with the black and white, and everyone having the same colors as gold instead of the traditional blue versus red teams. What do
Mhm.
you think of that jersey, man?
Um, I actually like it when the players wear their own team's jerseys, or at least some sort of variation of it, just so we can see, what teams they are representing. There, yeah, they can represent it through a hat, but I like their own team jerseys, to be honest with you, as opposed to wearing some sort of generic All Star game color that no one's really going to wear unless you buy it from like a Ross rack. So, so
These
what do
ones
you
are
think
pretty
about it?
close. I mean, these ones are pretty close, I thought, to like the home team jersey, right? I mean, it has a gold trim, yes, but overall, it looks like the original jersey. Maybe I can share it real quick if I can find it, but it has a logo. It has everything that you would expect from like the home jersey. And it actually kind of reminds me of the World Series ones, where you had that gold and had the gold letters, but it says All Star on it or whatever, or World Series on it. But this time it's the All Star, right? So let me share real quick in case people are viewing on here. Um, but yeah, I think it looked pretty good to me. So yeah, these are the gold jerseys, right? So I think it looks pretty good, right? I mean, it's has the Giants logo there. Obviously it has the All Star logo, but I thought it was pretty clean compared to last season. I mean, if you saw last season's jersey, it was pretty terrible, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and I can kind of pull that one up too. But yeah, I thought this was like significantly better in terms of something I would buy, right? I would actually buy that. And this was last season's jersey, right? If you look at it in this corner right here, it looked like a soccer jersey in my opinion. You know? So
Mhm.
from that standpoint, I think it was an upgrade. So and I think Jeannie Liu agree on the team jerseys. So he agrees with you. She agrees with you. So
All right. Well, that concludes this week's edition of the MJ Sportscast. Any final thoughts, Jerry?
yeah, I just want to thank our commenter, Jeannie Liu. So we're trying this new format where we're going to do 30 minutes, maybe come on twice a week. So stay tuned. Potentially Thursday or Friday, we can maybe do a quick episode like this. We're just trying to be on a little bit more for everyone to listen to. So check us out on YouTube on the Yang and Tang Show. If you're listening via Facebook or any other platform, please subscribe there so we can get that count up.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening and tuning in. We'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you for listening to the MJ Sportscast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter at the MJ Sportscast, at Mike408, at MindofJerry11. Tune in next week for another exciting episode.